Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Mr. Ward. I'm going to take my mask off since I am in a room by myself, but yes, this mask symbolizes the most unique back to school night I'm ever going to probably present at virtually. So again, Mr. Ward, teach Writing Workshop 7. Couple classes. I have one Mr. Kelch is in with me, another Mr. Evans is in with me as well, and just kind of want to go over pretty much how the class operates, what to expect this year, and how to best help your child, son, daughter, granddaughter, grandson, whomever at home, niece, nephew, whomever, trying to cover all the bases here, do their best. So I'm going to show you some things that we use in class, how to access certain things, and make this as informative as I can. I'm going to start this by saying this. I have two stepkids. One just graduated high school. So yes, her senior year was unique, or as they like to say, unprecedented. The stepson is just starting high school. So my point in saying that is this. I understand what you are feeling and what you're going through, and I'm trying to make this as seamless as I can for not just the students and myself, but for you as well, because most of you are probably working and don't have 2, 3, 4 hours to sit at home and help your son or daughter with schoolwork at night. I understand that. So me showing you a lot of the stuff should help you kind of understand that they are going to be able to work on this without a ton of support. They might need some. I mean, I'm not going to hide that. But it should be limited as much as possible. So with all that said, let me kind of show you some things here. So Google Classroom, this is what we use. If there's ever a question, there's two things here. One is in Google Docs, if there's ever a question of, hey, do you have any homework to do? Do you have any work that's due? Their Google Classroom should show it, first of all. But even without that, if they go to their Google Calendar, right here, Google Calendar, anytime a due date is put in, it'll populate their calendar, and they can click on certain dates and say, oh yeah, I have this due. This is just one of my classes that happens to be put in there. But for theirs, everything should pop up, especially if they've selected all these different classes. I'm kind of just looking at this. But anyway, so use the calendar. I mean, that's the first thing I would tell you to use. The other thing, you see missing or something in Genesis. Did you do it? Oh, yeah. Maybe they did. Here's how you can find out. Go to the class. Always have your students go to the classwork tab. The stream, it's like a Facebook page. Everything gets posted, but right now it's easy. There's only a few things. If we have to get to it later, or you have it like 2, 3 weeks from now, you're looking for something, it's going to be a mess. So everything is organized by week. On the assignment, like this one, which is due, I have to actually change this. It's due today, actually, tonight. If it's not turned in and it's late, it'll have a big red, either missing or non-submitted. You'll see on the assignment. If it's submitted, it'll be green and say turned in. If it's red, you can just scan it and the page and say, oh, you didn't turn this in, or we did. Like, that's one way to check and make sure that they're turning everything in when they're supposed to. So that's really Google Classroom. Another thing I want to point out too is this. Clearly it's Writing Workshop. We do a lot of writing. So very, very rarely will they have an assignment that has to be turned in and completed in a day. Even a long essay, if they say, well, we only had 2 days to write it, most of the time, 90% of the time, that's not true. Most of the time, we do things in steps, gradually, and learn and focus on one area at a time. The exceptions to that would be, like right now I'm having them do just a baseline sample to kind of get an idea of, hey, here's where we all are right now. Here's what we're doing well. Here's collectively what we need to improve. Here's our next step to improve. the beginning and end of a unit. Beginning of a unit, let's see what you can do now. The end of the unit, and it'll probably be like simulated kind of test thing where, all right, now we've gone through the steps. Let's see what we can do over the course of 2 days. Here's a couple texts, read them. Here's the prompt. Let's see what we can do now. Let's see what we've learned from the beginning to the end. Everything else is in steps. So with that said, there's a few things to be aware of. One is I always like to give them an organizer. So for this one, we're going to start this. By the time you see this, we'll have started it. Or actually, I'm filming this on the 16th. I'm going to start this tomorrow. I'm going to read an article called "The Dung Beetle is a Weapon Against Global Warming." There's a prompt. Always going to have them write in their own words. What does the prompt ask you to do? If we can't understand what it's asking, we can't really write it well. Then there's always an organizer. For this, they have to restate and answer the question in the first sentence. Put that together. Then textual evidence, which is the next part. If it's a literary essay, there'll be a different kind of organizer, but there's always an organizer where they're pulling the evidence, putting it together, kind of organizing what they need. So when they go to write the response, it's pretty much just follow the organizer. So that's one part. And we do this over the course of a few days. Like, we'll spend time collecting evidence before we write anything. There'll also almost always be a checklist. Make sure you do these things. And it'll have samples. So restate and answer, kind of, here's what you want to do. Here's what your first sentence should look like. Make yours look like this. Cite evidence. Use in-text citations, the 5 Ps we call them. Introduce the quote with the transition, indicator, verb. Here are examples. Here's what it should look like. Explain the evidence. There's some sentence starters. Here's what that should look like. So there'll always be a checklist, examples to look at. Never sending students in blind to do anything. So definitely, especially if your students saying, I don't know, I don't understand, open the organizer, make sure we've kind of filled stuff out. And if I see stuff that's not getting done consistently, trust me, I will be in contact with you. And the checklist, the rubrics pretty much mimic the checklist. So those are the things that are really going to help students this year. And I'm almost at the 8-minute mark, so I do want to kind of wrap this up. If there's ever any questions about anything, you want clarification on something, email me. I will get back to you within 24 hours, generally within an hour during the week. Weekends, it might be 48 hours. Even with that, I still check my email almost every day. So just let me know. I'm huge in communication. It honestly clears up 95% of the problems and issues that come up. One other thing I want to mention is kind of working virtually. This is clearly new to the students. It's new to us. We're doing it. I don't necessarily sit there and say, you have to have your camera on. I realize middle school we might be shy, not wanting it on. I'm starting to see more students have the cameras on during class. It helps from this standpoint. When students are in front of me, we get the, oh yeah, I understand, Mr. Ward, or the thumbs up, or smile, or the, what are you talking about? Uh-oh, that didn't get through. Let's really try to explain it another way. When students are kind of virtual and they don't have their cameras on, I'm not getting that body language. So I'm starting to see more students turn them on and trying to highlight the fact that, hey, this is great. It's helping me help them. The other part of that is if their camera is not on, I can't see what they're doing. It's not that I want to spy. It's nothing like that. But we were all kids. If the camera's off and I'm not really interested in the topic for that one day, and I got my PlayStation next to me, I might be tempted to play the PlayStation. So my point is this. If work's not getting done and their camera's not on, that might be the first thing is, hey, where are they working? Do they have a work area in the house that when I'm here, this is school? I've encouraged all my students to have a work area. This is school. When not, put the computer away when you're done all your work and forget about it. You're home. relax. But if we're not getting stuff done in the time we're given, then that's a possibility. It's not saying that's the only reason. Excuse me. One last thing. I swear I'm almost done. Homework. I don't assign quote unquote homework, meaning if we go over similes today in class, I'm not going to say, well, here's a worksheet, guys, to work on similes. No, we're going to demonstrate that through a writing. So generally, any homework is stuff that we've worked on in class for a day, 2, 3 days, and we're still not done. At that point, it will become homework. So if they say, I don't have any homework, we're going to finish that tomorrow, that may be true. But if you really question that, go back to Google Classroom, check due dates, check see if anything's missing, check their Google Calendar, that kind of thing. I do need to wrap this up. So again, if you happen to have any questions whatsoever, please let me know. Email me, fward@colsk12.org. Again, that's fward@colsk12.org. And other than that, Mr. Ward is out.